Welcome to this explainer. We're going to be breaking down some deeply impactful source material today that exposes a silent, honestly pretty emotional crisis currently sweeping across America. We're looking at a whole generation of kids who, well, they look incredibly successful on the outside, but secretly, they're feeling completely broken on the inside. So in this explainer, we're going to map out exactly what is happening to our youth, why it's happening, and most importantly, how we can actually fix it.
Okay, let's dive right in by confronting a heavy reality presented right up front in our sources. We are seeing straight-A students having full-blown panic attacks. We're watching teen athletes literally collapse under pressure. In fact, the source material highlights a shocking 40% increase in teen panic attacks over just the last decade. We've got middle schoolers terrified of failure before they even truly understand who they are. And our source material makes one thing absolutely abundantly clear. This is not laziness. It's not weakness. This is profound, crushing burnout.
So Section 1, the silent burnout crisis, performing instead of growing.
Think about it, kids. Today are facing just impossible directives. Get perfect grades, build the perfect college application, be talented, be attractive, be disciplined, and, whatever you do, never ever fall behind. The sources highlight the daily reality of a typical 13-year-old, and it's exhausting just reading it. Waking up at 6 a.m. for early practice, squeezing in homework during a hurried lunch, juggling 3 extracurriculars, and then staying up way past midnight to perfect a single science project. These children are no longer simply growing up, they're performing. Every single test feels totally life-changing, and every mistake, it feels absolutely permanent.
Moving right along to Section 2, what is perfectionism really?
To really get to the core of this crisis, we have to completely redefine a word we hear all the time. Perfectionism isn't just about wanting to do well. Healthy ambition says, hey, I want to improve. Perfectionism, on the other hand, says, if I fail, I am completely worthless. That is a massive, massive distinction. It's a dangerous mindset that basically turns a child's entire self-worth into a relentless performance metric.
When their self-worth becomes entirely tied to performance, kids adopt these incredibly toxic beliefs. They start to genuinely believe that love has to be earned, that taking a break and resting is just laziness, and that being average is an outright failure. Because they absorb these beliefs, high-achieving children are literally never at peace. They'll obsess over a single missed question on an otherwise flawless test, or they'll look completely confident walking down the hallway while secretly feeling terrified inside.
So what's throwing gas on this fire? Section 3, the accelerants of pressure, culture, college, and cliques.
In America, achievement is just deeply connected to identity. Teenagers are expected to manage this relentless list of metrics: GPA, SAT scores, leadership positions, volunteer hours, internships. The sources emphasize that some students are beginning their prep for elite colleges before high school even starts. You've got teenagers literally managing elite, corporate-style resumes before they can even legally drive a car. Instead of exploring life, they're just curating it.
And then you have to consider the devastating multiplier effect of social media. I mean, think about it. Previous generations compared themselves to the kids sitting right next to them in math class. Today's children, they are comparing themselves to millions of people online.
Platforms like TikTok and Instagram are constantly feeding them impossible standards, perfect grades, perfect bodies, flawless success stories. But what we know is that social media completely hides the severe depression, the emotional breakdowns, and the deep loneliness lurking right behind the camera. So children start believing that everyone else is succeeding except them, which creates this chronic insecurity that just never stops.
Which brings us to Section 4, the cost of success and the mental health toll. This flavor of perfectionism is strongly connected to severe mental health consequences. We're talking anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, emotional numbness. But honestly, the scariest part of this silent suffering is that high-performing children are absolute experts at hiding their emotional pain. The sources share this chilling quote from a high school junior. She said, "I cried in my car for 20 minutes, dried my eyes, and walked into AP chemistry with a perfect smile." They keep achieving, they smile perfectly, and they stay quiet, until one day they experience a total emotional collapse.
This inevitably leads to a really painful question, right? Why do loving parents miss the signs? Well, the source material offers a pretty profound answer. Even in deeply loving homes, fear-driven parenting, which is often fueled by economic anxiety, can unintentionally create intense pressure. Parents might unknowingly communicate that their kids' survival and future depend entirely on perfect performance. And children, they absorb those fears like a sponge.
The ultimate tragedy here is the literal loss of childhood. Because of all this pressure, kids just stop doing what kids are supposed to do. They stop playing freely, exploring creatively, and resting peacefully. You have kids as young as 15 whose nervous systems are perpetually stuck in survival mode, entirely unable to just rest and laugh without feeling guilty that they aren't being productive.
Okay, take a deep breath with me here, because we can turn this around. Section 5, Redefining American Childhood, Practical Solutions.
The sources argue that America must stop treating children like investment projects. We need to completely pivot our societal goal away from producing perfect children and instead aim toward raising emotionally resilient, compassionate, and balanced human beings. And this matters immensely. The solution isn't about lowering standards entirely. Kids still need discipline and goals for sure, but they absolutely must have a foundation of emotional safety if they're going to truly succeed.
So, for the parents watching, the sources lay out 6 practical steps to change the trajectory of your child's life starting today. First, praise their effort, not their identity. Second, openly normalize failure by talking about your own mistakes. Third, actively project their rest time. Fourth, reduce the overscheduling so they actually have space to breathe. Fifth, limit that toxic social media. And finally, step 6, and this is the big one, make your love feel completely unconditional. They have to know that they are loved even when they fail.
But parents can't fix this alone. Schools also have a massive role to play in this awakening, and it's all about building a more supportive system. They need to actively prioritize mental health right alongside academic achievement. That means creating healthier grading cultures, reducing academic overload, and expanding counseling. Because a burned-out student simply cannot thrive long-term. Schools must be a place of emotional safety and resilience, not fear.
And hey, if you are a teenager watching this right now, the absolute most powerful message from our sources is for you. You are not alone. Your value is infinitely bigger than your test scores, your grades, or your follower count. You are a human being before you are a performer, and failing a test or missing a goal will absolutely not destroy your future.
Because one day, the grades are going to disappear and the awards will fade, but your mental health and your self-worth, that is going to shape the rest of your life. The source material leaves us with this profoundly important thought to carry forward. You do not have to be perfect to deserve love, respect, and peace. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. As we log off today, I want you to ask yourself, what is one expectation you can drop right now to give a child their childhood back?